Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us for this latest episode of Big Brother's Big Archive. My name's Karl, and joining me as ever my co-host, Mr. Paul Barron.
I have a face!
And Mr. Joseph Tilley.
My ever-expanding Winky.
And as you've already worked out, this episode of Big Brother's Big Archive is going to be a little bit different. There's no dodgy DVD cover Photoshop. We're actually here. We're actually live inside my kitchen.
Hello.
Yep, and we are really looking forward to making this episode.
Yep, you can actually see the shit that I do that you probably hear me with the recording.
The one that's recurring in your nightmares every day.
Yep, you say Pete Burns, I will punch you.
Jackie Stallone.
That's even worse. Right, let's kick this pig.
Yes, as you've already worked out, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking about Big Brother 14, which as you know, the most recent series which was created, just aired a couple of weeks ago on Channel 5.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it was a decent series.
It was good,
As such, but you know, the thing with Big Brother, right, is the fact that when Big Brother wanted it to be, they could really, can I swear?
Yes, you can.
Oh, they can really fuck with the bloody housemates. This one is on the right track, but you're basically in control of a housemate that you really don't want to be in control of.
I do think there were elements of manipulation in there. I do think that, especially for the Big Brother franchise, it really went heavy on trying to create artificial drama. But at the same time though, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with making artificial drama? I'd rather have a house where it's artificially extra exciting and extreme than something like Big Brother 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you've got the world's fakest postie going in, and
We'll talk about him in greater detail.
Yeah, we will talk about him, and then all this other stuff like secrets and lies. What secrets? What lies? Does one of the doors sort of secretly open up? I would really buckle if you saw one of the half-cut doors just open up and see a little midget coming with a black suit and sunglasses.
You're just desperate for Vern Troy to get back in, aren't you?
I want him back. He's so cute.
Well, yes, you brought me onto something which is really interesting, which I want to discuss in more detail, which is the whole secrets and lies thing. Now, this was really hyped up in the pre-show stuff. Can you remember a lot of promotional stuff where you had that really dark...
Yes, the dark phone and room and the new host.
Emily Willis in the whole killing thing. Really good advertising campaign, and probably one of the first times that Channel 5 actually really went out in terms of advertising and creating a theme for the series.
Yeah.
Because most of the time it's just posh, trendy house and wacky, fun, glitzy eye. This one really felt like...
It was dark, yeah.
Yeah, there's some sort of reason behind why the house was like this, why the eye was like this, and it worked to the benefit of the show. Now, one of the things I want to bring up, I'm going to bring up a couple of the pre-show aspects of the show first, and the first thing I want to bring up is that there was a brand new presenting team for this series. Brian Dowling was disposed of, as was Jamie East and Alistair Vane.
In the most humane way.
Yep, and a new presenting team with Emma Willis presenting the main show and Ryland Clark and AJ presenting the spin-off show bit on the side. Now, the question I want to bring up to you is, did you agree with these decisions? What did you make of Emma as a host? Do you think it was an improvement over Brian?
I think Emma was a good host. She's definitely not as good as Davina. I think she's a bargain basement Davina.
Ooh.
I think there were elements of that.
You really cannot replace Davina. I mean, she was practically part of the show.
She was 10 years of the show.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, I still do feel that Davina by the end of it was just a bit cringeworthy for me.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd see some of the things she'd say, you'd see some of the things she'd do, and you'd just be thinking, you're a 40-year-old woman. So I feel Emma was a bit more appropriate. I mean, ideally it would be good to have Davina back, but that was never going to happen realistically.
Yeah, and as for Ryland and AJ...
less said the better.
Yeah, I really didn't watch, a bit on the side, because I can't stand Ryland and I can't stand AJ.
It's right. Do you know what it is? It's fucking X Factor meets Big Brother when you put Ryland in there.
Yeah.
Sure, he's a good enough entertainer and all that, but he's so freaking annoying.
I do feel that Ryland did make improvements on the housemate though.
Oh.
Yeah.
AJ though, AJ was absolutely abysmal. Still a looking girl, but awful to watch. But just going back to Ryland, we can't move on without talking about his teeth.
Oh my god!
What was he thinking with them?
Ross from Friends is what he was
Ross from Friends?
I would really buckle if there was a power cut. Quickly, everyone, follow the smiling grin. Fucking Alice in Wonderland, eat your fucking heart out. Oh my god.
Yeah, less said about Ryland, less said about AJ the better, but Emma was definitely a big improvement. Even though, I have to admit, I did feel a bit sorry for Brian, I felt he did make improvements as a host by the end of it.
Yeah.
But we move on to launch night itself. Now, launch night this series was a bit different than normal, because rather than having all 14 housemates go into the house at one time, they split the launch night over 2 nights, with 7 housemates going in the first night and 7 coming in the second night. Do you think that worked?
I think it was different. I think they were looking for something different, and it worked quite well.
I just sort of felt it dragged it out a bit. I mean, you never felt...
It did feel a little bit like that. I mean, you know, let's do something different. Time separation.
I mean, I understand why they did it, because because launch nights and the housemates going in always gets higher ratings than it would for a normal episode. So I can understand it from that point of view.
It's like the audition thing for X Factor. All you just see is the audition time, and then suddenly, you know, show made.
One thing I will say though is which group, in your opinion, had the better set of housemates?
Probably the first night.
You do get to know you do get to see a better set of housemates go in, but then you see a better set. But then you see a better set of tits. Not talking about Sandy. I'm talking about the other pair.
Who's Sandy?
Sandy, what do you call her?
Sally.
Sally. That's it.
Yeah, Paul's resorting to his notes already. Overall, the opinions of the cast: good choices, bad choices.
Good choices, I think. I don't think I was disappointed with anyone.
I mean, you already had your oddball, Wolfy. You've already got the paranormally annoying set of the twins. You've already got the mysterious Posty.
Yes, and we'll thank you for mentioning him, because we're going to be moving on, and we need to talk about that one housemate who everybody was talking about. Well, I say housemate, I made it housemate in inverted commas.
He's
Michael Dolan, the people's puppet.
Dolan Duck.
It's just that one just made me think. Oh my god, you're letting the most cruel set of people in the whole entire television take over. He is going to be an ass.
Do you think the twist worked though? Because one of the things I wanted to bring up was that, like, I'd always wanted a twist like this. I mean, I remember on Big Brother USA when he had Eric be America's player, and I thought, how good would it be to have something like that in Britain?
Yeah.
And Michael is probably realistically the only chance we're ever going to get to something similar.
Yeah.
So I expected it to be absolutely amazing, and it just fell short for me. But I don't think it was bad though because of the other housemates. I think it was bad because of Michael himself.
Yeah.
I think with a role like that, you really got to feel.
You got to play it.
Well, no, you got to warm to the person who's doing it.
Yeah.
And I never could. Michael said when he left the house that he wanted to try and portray this lovable but flawed guy. I just saw him as a bit Weasley, a bit unlikable, and I think that's why people didn't really want him. I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, if you read somewhere like Survivor Sucks cannot stand the guy. They really didn't like him. I feel there was this real, like, Weasley aspect of Michael, which it just didn't take to him.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think it was a bit Weasley, and it just wasn't quite what we expected.
I think the other issue was as well the production made him do too much too early.
Yeah.
Because I mean, on launch night he had to destroy the housemates' bags because they told him to, and then he made them do tasks. He had to sabotage the shopping task. He had to call out people. They had to bitch about people, and it was just too much too soon, and it ruined any sort of paranoia that might have been generated, or like, is Michael all he thinks he is? Because by the end of the third day, we knew.
Yeah.
I mean, they pretty much all knew. But when we weren't talking about Michael Dolan as a housemate, we were instead talking about Gina Rio. Now, Gina was one of the housemates who had a lot of pre-show publicity. She'd been in the papers a few months before, claiming to be the most spoilt girl in Britain.
Yeah.
And those first few days, she made no attempt to try and redeem herself. And if anything, just made people absolutely hate. I mean,
Yeah.
Basically, what any other person who you thought was a spoiled brat would be.
You know, actually, who she reminds me of is the spoiled girl in Charlie Brooker's Dead Set, the Scottish one.
Pippa.
Yes, that's who she reminds me of.
She reminds me more of sort of like a cross between Derek Lord and Nicky Graham.
Yes.
Here you go, have some spoiled girl. The zombies go. Ugh.
But no, if you're coming in as the most spoiled girl in Britain, you want to try and redeem yourself. You want to try and do something to make people like you.
Yeah.
You don't steal Sally's hat. It's like Sally's Smurf hat and run around the house with it. You don't try and incite that Jemima is being racist to you. I mean, I'm not joking. When I saw Gina come in and I saw those first two things she did, I just thought she is the most blatant first boot ever.
Yeah.
And her transformation throughout the series to become realistic contender to win was amazing for my eyes. But early Gina, what was your opinion?
I think what you said, she's a spoiled brat, and I thought she was definitely going to be first to go. Definitely.
But it made for a good character in the show, though, didn't it?
Yeah, it made for a good character. I mean, look at Nicky Graham. We still talk.
We still talk about Nicky Graham. We might not like her that much. I mean, you can't despise her.
Who is she? Who is she?
Where did you find
Silence.
But no, one of the things I just mentioned there on the whole Gina versus everyone thing, which I want to bring in more detail. What was your opinion on Jemima being called out for racism?
I think it was ridiculous.
Because if you remember, Jemima made the comment that she liked black men, and she thought that you're a black woman, obviously you're going to go for black men more. Gina,
It's ridiculous.
It
is pretty ridiculous.
It was a stupid overreaction.
Do you think the production deliberately made out what Jemima said was worse because they wanted the controversy of, oh, this housemate 3 days in is being racist?
Quickly, get the papers. We must make sure that everyone knows about this racism.
Yeah, I think it was just an overreaction, and it was ridiculous.
Yes, we blame you, Channel 5. We blame you.
Yeah. And we also blame you for this terrible decision, which I need to bring up with you. The return of Vote to Evict. I mean, we'd had 2 seasons of the civilian version on Channel 5 with Vote to Save. And I don't know about you, Vote to Save worked absolutely brilliantly for me. It weeded out the weaker, poorer characters and kept in the bigger characters in the show. As we saw with Spidey and Celebrity 11, where how bad would that show have been without Spidey?
Pretty bad.
Yeah. So you need your bigger characters in there, and by bringing back Vote to Evict and bringing back 3 people in a Vote to Evict, you're all but guaranteeing every week the one of your big characters is going to go. I mean, Big Brother 14 ended up getting away with it somewhat, and we'll explain that in more detail why. But what were they thinking with this? Why bring back something in Vote to Evict which was so disliked?
I think it was good that they brought it back. I actually prefer Vote to Evict because it's more reminiscent of the Channel 4 series. I think if in Vote to Evict, it's more of it's more daring to vote to evict than to vote to save because you know who's left.
And plus the fact that you see the character that you don't like and you find out that one of the characters...
If you don't like someone, you want to vote them out, not vote to save them. So I think Vote to Evict was a good idea.
The only benefit I can see personally with Vote to Evict, I mean, I'm more pro Vote to Save than I am pro Vote to Evict, but the only good thing I can think of is that I think with Vote to Save, you become reliant on characters far too early, and other people get the shaft as a result of that. But because of Vote to Evict, you have this sort of villain of the week approach where somebody's the big bad, they get evicted. And it forces production to try and develop new characters, and we see with someone like Callum or Hazel, who ended up becoming big villains later on in the show.
Like Power Rangers.
Villain of the week.
Told you.
But yeah, you saw how them two got established as big characters. That might not have happened if someone like Sally, for example, ended up staying week 1 and ended up just being the big bad throughout the series because production didn't want to take a chance to push someone else in the role. And we move on, and good thing you actually mentioned Sally, because that's one of the people we're going to be talking about, because Dexter versus Gina versus Sally, they were all voted by the public. Of course, it was Michael's claim that he was making the nominations. In fact, it was the British public, being the fools that they are.
Yeah.
And 3 of the biggest characters in the first week are going up against each other in week 1. We're going to be losing a big character early on. And the person that the public decided to choose was Sally Axel.
No!
Just call her
the boobs! Not the boobs!
Now, pretty obvious question, because as we all know how the series turned out, but was the right decision made.
I don't know why you're complaining about there being no boobs, because Jack and Jo had bigger boobs than she did.
No, they were practically bigger tits than she had. So, I thought she was pretty good. She was a former Suicide Girl. Ow. She was a former Suicide Girl, so she's already got the emo indie crowd.
Yeah.
But she also has, let's just say, assets that really make her really good. She was a good laugh.
I love how Paul implies that a great housemaid is because of the size of their boobs. Leah must be your favourite housemaid ever then.
Let me get me then. She was pretty likable, and also
likable. Do you really think so? Yeah. I mean, Sally was very divisive. I knew on the phone. I mean, I knew some people who absolutely adored her, thought she was fantastic entertainment.
I wonder
and
why.
others, and others thought that she was just unbearable.
Yeah, but you know,
I'm sort of more pro Sally than I am anti Sally. I mean, she brought the entertainment.
Yeah, she was
entertaining. Yeah, fantastic entertainment. I mean, do you know who she reminded me of? She was Rebecca Vaughn.
Yes, yeah.
But she was Rebecca Vaughn times 10.
Yeah.
I mean, she was more extreme, she was more dynamic, she brought a lot more drama and conflict. I knew she was going to be gone.
Yeah.
I knew how the British public worked, but she was a good early boot housemaid in my opinion.
Right.
And I think the show did get a bit hurt when she ended up going. It's actually one of the ironic things though, that had vote to say been in that series, Sally would have stayed, Dexter would have gone.
Yeah.
How different would the series have been without Dexter? If Dexter had
it would
gone
be
with
really
what?
different.
It would probably be less. It would probably be a little bit more less because already you got one character. You got one big character out.
Yes.
So you're basically saving on bloody Mr. Yao and and George Takei's love child. Seriously, if you really get 2 pictures of those two, you can see it. You can actually see it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But of course, Sally ends up getting evicted. Pretty much the work of Michael, the people's puppet. But of course, his work was done. Emma reveals to the house, Michael Dolan here, he's not a real housemate, he's an actor. Take him out the house. Now, your assessment of Michael as a character in his performance in the show?
It was a good character. I think he listened to the public well, and they did what he did what they wanted to.
Yeah, but
what the public wanted was pretty terrible. Let's be honest.
I don't think they should have taken Michael out. I think they should have said we're taking him out and then put him in the halfway house to control the house a bit more. That would have made a good series.
Or dress him up like a ninja.
I think if they hadn't have gone all out with Michael by giving them so many tasks.
Yeah, if they'd split it up.
If they'd done that, I would have been a bit more tolerable towards him having a longer time in the house. But if it was going to be like that, and it was just going to be him doing tasks day after day after day for 4 or 5 weeks.
Well, no, I didn't mean for the whole thing.
It gets boring.
Yeah, it was.
Really,
it was
boring.
a bit boring when they got Katie Price and everything.
Yeah. And speaking of boring, we come to the twins.
Oh god.
And the twins' individual tasks. Now, if anybody ever noticed this, now, whenever the house got a bit boring, got a bit tired, they'd always set some sort of individual task to try and break the day or try and introduce a bit of stuff for the highlights show. Now, nearly all the time though, if anyone noticed this, it was nearly always the twins who ended up getting these mini tasks. And they had to...
entertaining.
They're not entertaining. They're a pair of tits. I've seen bigger tits. They're comparable as big tits.
How many times has Paul said tits in this podcast already?
If you comment right now and tell me how many times I said the word tit, then good on you.
I think we should do a little thing in the corner.
Yeah, it's a little tit contest.
We're gonna see rocketing with that thing there, right?
But I mean, they had the one where the house had to hide away from them, so the twins thought they were the only ones in there.
Morons.
Yeah, and then they had to do the one where they had all the toys and had to try and carry the one that comes a bit later in the show. But nearly always, the twins got these individual tasks. Was it favouritism from production? Do you think they wanted the twins to be potential winners?
Yes. I think they wanted. I think they saw quite early that the twins are entertaining.
They're not. Ow. Okay. But still, right? They are entertaining in a way. But my God,
their little fights are brilliant.
It gets too tiresome for me.
That was the thing. Exactly.
The twins could be funny in small doses for me.
Yeah.
If you had like once in a blue moon, if a twin comes up with something a bit of light relief, that's fine. But when you had it full on for 3 months of the show, and you had production pushing them down our throats with little tasks like that, with some sort of inevitable chocolate cake treat at the end of it, it was just unbearable.
So
I don't think
it's practically turned into Paul. It's if you do this for Big Brother will give you cake.
Cake is a lie.
Just a fire pit. Look, cake. No.
Yeah, I think they use the twins too much for these tasks, but they are entertaining.
It's just do a trick and we'll give you cake.
That's what it felt like. It felt like a dog doing tricks for its master.
Yeah.
Cake. Go on.
But Feast Like a Beast was funny.
Remind us of Feast Like a Beast?
Feast Like a Beast was where they had to impersonate animals eating and the other housemates had to guess.
I wonder what YouTube video that came from.
Not very imaginative Channel 5, are they?
No, they just went, let's see, something popular. How animals eat. Brilliant! Let's use that as a task!
Speaking of tasks, can I just say how brilliant the quarantine task was?
Thank you very much for bringing it on to that. Wow, totally agree. Fantastic task. Now, I actually do think People with 14 had quite a weak selection of tasks, but the quarantine one was definitely one of the better ones for me.
I've watched Charlie Brooker's Dead Set so many times.
It was definitely
based on
Dead Set, totally.
And it was so brilliant.
Yeah. It was things that, of course, the housemates had to do a selection of forfeits, so Dan supposedly was it a spider? Was it a tarantula that he's supposed to have on him? So Dan's going over the top, as you'd expect. The twins have the tiniest little bit of their hair shaved off, and they end up going absolutely berserk about it.
A tiny bit. I think one of them had a whole clip.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a mohawk.
No,
it's a little bit shaved off the front like that.
No offense, dickhead. Oh my God.
Definitely, thank you for bringing that up. I do have to agree, the quarantine task was great.
It was one of the best of the series.
Yeah. But we move on though, and we move on to Jemima's dead daughter, in inverted commas. Now this was one of the arguments that really got people talking. A great funny moment, if anyone remembers this. But for a series that was short of laughs, Jemima and a dead daughter was funny.
Definitely.
And it was basically stemmed from an argument that her and Dan had. But basically Jemima implied that her daughter had died. But of course Dan points out, hang on a minute, how can your daughter be alive but you said she died? Well, her heart stopped beating. But that doesn't imply that you're dead. And it carries on like that. You end up getting increasingly louder over, and Jemima's just like, she died in my arms!
She just died in her arms.
But I mean, Jemima was so over the top about it. It was just so funny.
Stop.
You know, you don't get overreacting things like that in Big Brother these days. I mean, you just went, it sort of reminds you of that thing from a movie. No, she's tagging me out. Revenge montage.
One of the things I do want to say though, I want to point this out though, was that one of the things that instigated that was Dan's paranoia. And it's just one of the things I want to point out, because Dan, by the end of week 1, was the digital spy favourite. Digital spy pretty much loves anybody who shows any sort of intelligence. So that was inevitably Dan for this year. what did you make of his paranoia? What did you make of him thinking ahead and thinking, oh, is that right? Is there another twist to this? Is she all that she cracked up to be?
I think that. Well, I think Dan took a page out of Darnell's book. He definitely about his paranoia. I think when you go into the Big Brother house, you shouldn't overthink things.
Yes, definitely.
Because you will go crazy.
And I mean, as much as I like Dan throughout the series, I thought Dan was an okay housemate. The paranoia stuff, especially in week 2, is just too overbearing.
Yeah.
Do you think though that with Dan's profession, because he is a police officer, he's supposed to think in this sort of way.
Yeah.
Do you think that was inevitable that was going to happen?
I don't know. I think as a police officer, you should be able to switch it on and off. And maybe you should have just switched it off for being in the Big Brother house.
You know, it's just you can't switch off automatically. I mean, you don't know the next person who's going to come up and stab you in the back.
Did Dan's paranoia put you off him a bit?
Yeah, not really, no.
Yeah. Well, and the other part of that whole argument, Dan of course was one of them, Jemima was the other one.
Yeah.
So we talk about Jemima, and we have to anyway, because this was her last week in there.
Oh.
It was Dexter versus Gina versus Jemima, Dexter and Gina
again.
up again. That's going to happen a lot. Dexter's going to be up pretty much every single week here.
Yeah.
Oh my, again, my word.
And Jemima ends up going. Now, would Jemima have still gone even without the whole dead daughter thing?
I think the dead daughter was a bit, and the overreaction was a bit
Freddy
bad.
weird.
Yeah, it was a bit Freddy, and it was a bit of a turn off. I don't think I really enjoyed it after that.
You really don't have to go over the top over a dead daughter.
Yeah.
Especially one that, well,
the daughter didn't die. That's the thing. That's what made it ridiculous. That's what turned people off. Jemima insisting that the daughter died when.
How the fuck? How does that even work? Oh, I'm alive!
Because her heart stopped and she stopped breathing, so technically she was dead, but they resuscitated her.
Ooh, then she can see ghosts. My word, this could be really profitable.
Yes. But what was your view on Jemima? Because I don't know.
Overreacting.
You thought that?
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, because I'm a bit touch and go about Jemima as a housemate for me, because I think that in some cases I thought she was a good housemate. She was always going to be an early boot. So for an early boot, she delivered some early drama, she was quite likeable, a bit of a train wreck, that's good. But when you look at her character archetype and you see, written on paper, deluded, rough as sandpaper, sex-mad cougar, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And when you compare it to that, Jemima just sort of underwhelms a little bit.
Now I remember who Jemima was, and
Yeah.
damn! Could hit that.
Well, you want a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love the fact that she took such pride in being a Sarah Jessica Parker lookalike. That's not something to be proud of.
No,
Sarah Jessica
definitely
Parker.
not.
New perfume from Sarah Jessica Parker.
You know what we say about that? We say nay!
Oh, that's harsh.
New perfume. Horseface. Nay!
But I mean, going back to Jemima though, I mean, if you want a housemate who Jemima is sort of comparable to, I think the closest one you can compare it to is Leah.
Ashley. Oh.
And if you looked at Leah and you saw how Leah grew as a character and became so prominent and so engaged,
Yeah.
Jemima just fades into comparison every time.
Yeah.
I mean, she was good for what she was, which was an early boot, but I think she could have been just a little bit better.
Do you agree though that she was kind of like Ashley as well? I thought she was a bit. She grew.
I saw more Ashley than Gina.
Yeah.
I mean, Ashley came in as a spoiled socialite brat and then won people over in the same way that Gina did.
Right. Yeah.
Now, one of the things that people were going over the top about, the housemate they were going over the top about, was Wolfy. Wolfy was, by this point, the public favourite. She was a favourite to win. She had a lot of fan base, and if you remember, come week 2, the crowd were chanting Wolfy, Wolfy, Wolfy.
Because it's an easy thing to chant.
Yes.
Then Jemima.
You can't really. Well, you can kind of chant Jack and Joe, but it's going to sound weird.
It'll be the twins.
Yeah.
That's what they chant.
Twins. Yeah.
But
We'll be chanting something else.
But this Wolfy chant, the support of Wolfy, was the pinnacle for her. Week 3 pretty much became the fall for Wolfy.
Yeah.
And mainly done in a few ways, which was the exposure of her has a bit of a fraud, because Wolfy had tried to paint herself as this sort of lovable Dr. Dolittle hippie figure who could talk to the animals and
Walk with the animals.
Oh my
grunt
God.
and squeak and squawk with the animals.
Why do I have a... And then suddenly Eddie Murphy comes out of nowhere.
But she basically got exposed as a fraud out of that because they gave her a talking to the animals task, which she completely fluffed up. It was just exposed, it was just a fraud.
That was hilarious.
But also as well, her arrogance and the self-righteousness that came with Wolfy during this week was unbearable.
It sometimes with as I like to call them, neo hippies, or as everyone likes to call them, idiots. But some people like that are practically full of themselves, really. I mean, they want to save the environment, but yet they're driving a Land Rover.
And I felt that was the case for Wolfy. I mean, the martyrdom that she demonstrated, this sort of like self-righteousness, was just unbearable. I think. Didn't she say something to Charlie where she implied you don't want to be eating that? That's going to be bad for you.
Yeah.
Look at yourself.
Yeah.
I think you've had a little bit of too many bad things for you, Wolfie, or as I like to call them, McDonald's.
And then of course when it came to the nominations, Wolfy of course immediately thought, I ain't going anywhere. You need to watch out for me. I'm the biggest competition. I'm going to be here to the end.
Yeah.
I mean, the public were absolutely baiting for Wolfy, and it brings me on to the decision to bring in the safe house, which was arguably done to protect them.
Yeah.
Would you say they were wolf baiting? I thank you.
Well done, Paul.
Thank you.
Paul Barney's here all week.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, the safe house sort of thing, did feel a bit...
Halfway house. They've done it so many
So
times.
it's far
so
too many
boring.
times, yeah. I mean, it was great when Emma and Michelle did the Big Brother 5, but by now we've just seen it too many times. I mean, it delivered. I'll give you that. It did deliver in some quarters. I mean, as we'll come to, some housemates absolutely thrived in there. We'll come to them later. But it's just been done too many times.
Yeah.
Too unoriginal. Yeah. And the worst part about it for me with week 3 was the way in which it felt it was done just to save Wolfy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, how good would it have been if that eviction of Dexter, Gina, Dan and Wolfy had gone ahead?
Dexter.
Wolfy thinking she's absolutely loved and going that way. I mean, that would have been Caesar levels of amazing for me.
Yeah.
Caesar levels.
I mean, but can you remember with Caesar how he was so obnoxious? He thought he was going to win, how he was going to stay, and that look on his face when he ended up getting evicted. And we had an opportunity to have that with Wolfy.
Yeah.
Wolfy thinking that she's absolutely loved and then going.
Yeah.
And it sort of took the edge off her eventual eviction.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. I think it kind of ruined it.
But the fact that Wolfie getting knocked back by this big, massive wall of boo coming straight at a bloody self-righteous hippie head.
But it took a lot of the spark out of Wolfy though. I mean, Wolfy in week 4 was not the obnoxious love to hate Wolfy.
She was starting to show her characters off, Wolfie.
Arguable. Next thing we're going to bring up though. Now, watching the audition VTs. Now, they did this twice during this week, where they basically, housemates won a prize, and the prize was you got to see each other's nominations. Now, not nominations, other people's audition VTs. Now, am I the only one who doesn't understand how everybody ends up getting wound up by audition VTs? God, nearly every time they say, oh, that's not what he's like in there.
Yeah.
Oh, he's putting it on, he's playing the game.
Totally do. Everyone does that. Everyone who auditions for Big Brother
Everybody hands it
does
up.
it. Yeah.
I mean...
And I don't understand why people get so, edgy about it, why people panic about it. I mean, everybody knows they edited, everybody knows they hammered up.
Yeah.
Come to think of it, didn't you you do it at your Big Brother audition? Oh, I'm a nice guy, but yet in real life, I'll probably stab you in the back as soon as I get in that house.
I think the only person who was real in their VT was Kitten. And she walked.
Well, no, she got ejected.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Ejected for giving the full eviction on hoopla.
Yeah.
Would probably buckle up the whole entire audience. Just went hoopla, hoopla, hoopla.
I'm more scared this is the only audition. This is the only video that I can think of that has the word hoopla in it.
Yes, suck it, YouTube. Only video in the world that has hoopla.
Yes. But yeah, I'm just trying to find my notes here. The one that got it worse though was Callum.
Yeah.
Didn't Callum make that boast though that he slept with buckloads of women and had slept with the mums as well?
Yeah.
And that was the one that really got Jackie Travers going as well.
Yeah.
Now, and it's sort of like, in many ways, we're just coming to later, it's like sort of this descent of Callum.
Yes, yeah.
And we'll come to that in a bit more detail later.
Yeah, whatever.
No, you were going to say
I was going to say, to all the feminists out there, they'll probably end up pissing a lot of people off.
Yes, definitely.